Welcome to Easy Stories in English. I was walking around and it was like, oh, it would be really nice to get like a smoothie or a bubble tea. And then I was like, okay, well, what's something nice I can get that fills that need of having something in the nice weather, a nice drink, but isn't sweet? So I ended up getting an iced hojicha latte. So hojicha is a kind of Japanese tea. I think it's some kind of grain like buckwheat or barley. I don't know. But it's a kind of tea, right? Like a kind of black tea, quite bitter. And I had that iced as a latte, so with milk, but no sugar. And it was really good. It was a very nice flavor. I got to enjoy the rich flavor, but it wasn't sweet. And I just fulfilled that need in a different way. And that's what I found is I've been thinking, well, first of all, my taste buds have been a lot more sensitive. So your taste buds are the little dots on your tongue that pick up flavor. Yeah, we have taste buds for sweet food, for salty food, for sour food, for spicy food, and so on. Especially in the first week or so, my taste buds were really sensitive. Like I ate a tomato and I was like, oh my God, this is the most delicious tomato I've ever had. You know, I was really sensitive to flavors and everything just tasted more and better. So I found if I'm craving sugar, I think, okay, craving is when you really want something, like suddenly you're like, oh, I'm really craving a chocolate bar. For example, when women get pregnant, they often crave very specific foods. Maybe they crave food that they never liked before. So what I do if I'm craving sugar is I say, okay, is there something else I can get that's not sweet, that still has an interesting flavor which I can enjoy? And if it's food, am I actually hungry? Because often I'm not really hungry. And if you're eating something sugary, it kind of overrides that hunger, that fullness, I guess. Like you can eat sweet food when you're full much more easily because the sugar kind of stimulates your body and actually I think it increases your appetite. It makes you hungrier. But if you're really full and you're like, oh, I want to have chips because I really want that salty flavor, it's like, well, I can't, I'm too full, right? So I just won't eat. But yeah, often there is something I can have, whether it be, I don't know, coffee, like a decaf coffee, maybe in the afternoon, a nice decaf cappuccino, because there's like a bit of sweetness in the milk. Like maybe I wouldn't have tasted that before, but now if I have a cappuccino with no sugar, it tastes sweet to me because I guess, yeah, the milk is got lactose or some kind of small amount of sugar in it. In general, my appetite has been much less. Again, this is a change that I noticed the most at the beginning and then it's kind of evened out a bit. But generally, I can eat smaller meals and feel full. And if I need to skip a meal, like if I need to not eat lunch or dinner because I'm going to a social event or something, that used to be very stressful because I would get really hungry. But now I can do that quite easily and I feel fine. I think a lot of the pain of hunger, a lot of the difficulty of hunger comes from sugar because sugar affects your blood sugar levels so much. It makes a dramatic spike in insulin, right? Which is this chemical to do with the regulation of sugar in the body. Whereas if you eat less sugar or no sugar, I can't really say I'm eating no sugar because I'm still having bits of sugar in various things, but sure, I'm having a lot less sugar. When you have less sugar, your blood sugar is more stable, so you don't get this like intense hunger, or at least that's what I've experienced. So originally, the plan was to buy a really nice luxury Easter egg, like a chocolate egg, to have on Easter Sunday. And I was even thinking of putting it up by my bed so I could look at it and fantasize and look forward to this delicious Easter egg. But now I'm not sure because I'm really enjoying life with no sugar and I'm thinking I want to continue it. And I know myself, and also generally I just think this is how it works. I know that if I have some sugar, if after Lent I say, okay, I'll allow myself to have a bit of chocolates at the end of the day, it will all go downhill. It will all change very quickly. I know that as soon as I open that door, I will start eating sugar and chocolate and sweets a lot. And I'll just go back to how it was before. So I really do want to try and maintain this. If for nothing else, just because I like it. And also, I would be lying if I didn't say I'm also a bit vain. And vain is when you're obsessed with your appearance. You care a lot about your appearance. And to be honest, since quitting sugar, I've lost some weight. And I know what you're probably thinking, Ariel, you don't need to lose weight. I know I don't need to lose weight, but it feels good to lose weight so easily, actually. And then also because I've been doing so much yoga and then I lost some weight, I can really see the muscle definition on my body. I can really see all of the muscle. I'm showing some of it on the YouTube video right now. You might be able to see. Yeah, so muscles. I'm seeing them more. That's nice. We like that. And it just feels good for my body. And I would like to do that for my body because I've struggled with sugar and sweets and chocolate for all my life. So if I can just end it, then I think that will be amazing. The way to do these dramatic changes is to say, I'm not a person who does this, right? It's to make it a personality thing. I'm not a person who eats sugar. And for these 40 days, I feel like I am able to say that, right? I'm not a person who does this. Oh, I'm not a biscuit person. I'm not a cake person. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue that afterwards, even though it might be a bit annoying because I know I'm going to be in group situations and everyone else will want ice cream or we're having dessert and I'll be like, sorry, I don't do that. I don't eat ice cream. I don't eat dessert. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to be a bit annoying. Sometimes you just have to be different and special. In other news, life is good. Spring has sprung. So spring is the season, springtime, rabbits, flowers, leaves on the trees. And actually in English, spring is also a verb, to spring. It means to jump. And the past is sprang, and the past participle is sprung. So there's this expression, we say, spring has sprung, spring has jumped. And that means that spring is here, spring has begun. And I love spring, oh my God, because every year in the UK, when it gets to winter and it's really dark and the days are so short, I feel like all my energy is being sapped away. All my energy is just going. And then spring arrives and I'm like, woo, woo, woo. I'm full of energy. So yeah, spring has sprung. We've had some beautiful sunny days with 18 degrees. I've spent time in the park catching the sun. I can wake up and it's light outside, although next week is daylight savings. So we'll go back to darkness in the morning for a few weeks. But what that does mean, daylight savings is, when the clock moves backwards or forwards. Not all countries do daylight savings. It's a bit of a stupid system, to be honest. But the advantage of daylight savings next week is that the days will be longer. Well, they'll feel longer. They'll feel darker in the morning, but then the sun goes down at 7 p.m. and it's fabulous. I love long British evenings. That is one advantage of the weather here. Okay, so it's like cold and wet and stuff. But in summer, we get such long days. Like in the summer here, the sun sets at like 10 p.m. It's gorgeous. You can sit out in the evening in a park. Oh, it's so nice. I'm really looking forward to that. I remember during COVID, in that summer, I used to walk up to the park near my house at like 8 or 9 p.m. and everyone was sitting out on the grass, socially distanced, of course. And I would just lie down on my blanket, read a book, watch the sunset, have a nap. Well, not really have a nap, just kind of lie down. And then when it was time for bed, I would walk home and go to bed. It was really, really nice. So I'm looking forward to doing things like that again. I have been very busy. I've been doing a lot of yoga. I've been doing some work-related stuff. Obviously, I've been making the podcast. I've been socializing a lot. And I've been preparing for my Japanese exam, which I think is going well. The last practice test I did, I got like 80% overall. And in all of the sections but one, I got like 85 or 90%. There's just one section, which is the vocabulary. I think it's just the vocabulary section that I got like 55%. But overall, I would almost certainly pass. So to be honest, the main way to improve the vocabulary is just to keep reading books and making flashcards with new words from the books. This is interesting, right? Normally, I'm anti-flashcards. So flashcards is when you make these little cards where you write a word on one side and then the definition on the other, and you use them to study with, right, to test your memory. And it's a very like old school traditional language learning method to make vocabulary flashcards. And nowadays, most people make digital flashcards. And if you make digital flashcards, they use often a spaced repetition system, SRS, which uses research on intervals, like what are the best intervals for studying words to remember them the best. It can also be with like facts or other things for any kind of studying, but for languages, it's usually words, right? And I've traditionally been very anti-flashcards. Like, I think it's much better to focus on comprehensible input, so reading and listening a lot in your target language. But because for this exam, I need to know as much as possible, some of the vocabulary is pretty obscure. It's not very common vocabulary. And I need to remember all the pronunciations, which is difficult with Japanese because the characters can have really different pronunciations depending on what word they're in. I've started making flashcards, but I found a way of doing it that I think is much more effective. I didn't invent this, but it's called sentence flashcards, right? And it's a really obvious concept now that I know it. I kind of wish I had figured it out before, but essentially I read my book, and then when I come across a word that's new, I highlight the sentence, and then later on, I make a flashcard from that sentence. So on the flashcard, on one side, I have the whole sentence, and then underlined is the new word, the word that I learned, or that I came across for the first time. And then on the other side is the definition and pronunciation of that word. So the idea is, rather than just learning words without context, you learn them in a specific context and you learn what they mean specifically in that context. And because the flashcard is from my reading, I can remember, oh, this was talking about this thing happening. This was in that chapter. Okay, so thank you for listening to this episode of Easy Stories in English. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.